So, it looks like the 2021 gamer shelved out money for a new show, it seems. What's this one about?
Welcome to Animation Court, where all projects are judged from both a negative and positive view.
Okay, so why does this look like a Phoenix Wright setting?
Because notoriety. Today's review will be on the first season of Clannad, and you'll be going through each arc of that season and discussing the good and bad parts of it.
Oh, sweet, I love that anime!
Silly Wave, this is one of the worst animes I've ever seen.
Dark Author! What are you doing here?
Allow me to explain. For those who don't know, Wave and a few of his friends did reactions to the Clannad anime on this channel, and I was one of his friends that took part in pretty much every one of them. However, behind the scenes, I was riffing the first season, and I didn't like it.
So, I take it that you'll be discussing the negatives then?
Correct. This is an anime that a lot of people say is one of the best out there, and I am here to show them that, like a marble statue, it has a few cracks in it. I'm not like your other friends, Wave. If you want to show that this anime is good, you're going to have to work hard to prove it.
Fine then. The defense is ready, Your Honor. I'm ready to show the audience that this anime deserves the praise it has gotten.
Go ahead and waste your breath. The prosecution, or whatever you want to call it, is ready.
Very well, let's begin.
Clannad is an anime based on a visual novel of the same name that was released in 2004 for the PC as a limited version and was later ported to the PS2, PSP, and Xbox 360 in Japan shortly after. This series revolves around Tomoya Okazaki and his experiences during his third year of high school as well as his life after high school ends, but for the sake of this review we'll deal with the first season. Now I just want to say that I like that this series is from Tomoya's perspective. It's not because I don't think the other characters are boring or anything, but compared to the other characters we'll see later on, Tomoya is one of the only likable characters in the season that are male. He has issues that a lot of us could relate to, he doesn't seem to care about anything, which is something I've seen a lot of people share back when they were attending high school, and even though this anime will delve into supernatural shit later on, Tomoya is one of the only few characters that stays anchors to reality, for the most part. Anyways, on to the first couple episodes. Tomoya's usual routine is attending the school he doesn't like, take his classes that he doesn't like, and go home to his dad that he doesn't like. But all this changes when he runs into someone he never met before. This is Nagisa Furukawa, and this is where I have to give another positive to this anime. This anime has one of the best soundtracks I've ever heard in my life. I am a sucker for a piano piece, which this soundtrack has a lot of, and even the songs that don't have a piano in it are still very emotional and great to listen to, at least for me. Hell, look at this animation! This may just be me, but this looks friggin' gorgeous! The backgrounds are well detailed, I like the character designs for the most part, and the lighting for a lot of the scenes really help make certain moments pop out of my eyes. But I digress. So after Tomoya meets Nagisa for the first time, we find out a little more about Nagisa throughout the episode. She's a repeating student because of an unexplained illness, and she wants to join the drama club, which she finds out later is disbanded. So Nagisa wants to get the drama club back together, and that's pretty much her main goal for this season. So before I finish my thoughts on this prologue, I want to say that I really like the side characters for the most part. Sane is a really sweet and caring person, Akio is absolutely hilarious, Kiyo can also be pretty funny, and Ryo can be weird at points, but I didn't really hate her. I'll talk about Nagisa later on, but I'll say that she's one of my favorite characters in this anime.
Hold it! I didn't really care for the side characters in all honesty. I didn't find most of them to be that interesting, and the side characters that weren't interesting I absolutely hated. Looking at you, Sunehara, and no, my opinions on these characters didn't really improve as the season went on. You'll see what I mean in a bit. I don't have much to say about these first couple episodes because they are meant to be the setup for later episodes of this season, though I do have one complaint. The robot and the girl. What is the point of them? But yeah, that is all I have to say about the prologue.
What's wrong, Dark Author? I thought you were going to talk about the issues with this show.
Oh, believe me, Wave, you're on the calm before the storm. Once you reach Fukos Ark, you'll be in the eye soon enough.
Next up is the Fukos Ark. To summarize, Fuko is a ghost of a girl who was involved in a car accident and is pretty much haunting the school her sister was attending, while giving out hand-carved starfish to students as invitations for her sister's upcoming wedding. It goes well for a bit, but then people begin forgetting about her. Eventually, Fuko's sister gets married and Fuko's spirit leaves, but not before giving one last starfish to her sister.
Objection! This arc is terrible. Hands down one of the worst arcs in this season, bar none. Why is Fuko a ghost? Yeah, she was in a car accident and left in a coma, but last I checked, people in comas didn't spawn ghosts to go mess around in the real world. Second of all, if Nagisa and Tomoya knew about her being in a coma, as we later see, why didn't they go to the hospital to check? Sure, we later find out that people who went to the hospital lost their memories, but as we see near the end of this arc, Nagisa and Tomoya lose their memories as well for a short period of time, and they didn't go to the hospital, so that can't be it. None of this makes any sense. Another issue I have with this arc is the length. In all honesty, it goes on for way too long and it becomes a problem when the payoff isn't that great. One of Fuko's biggest worries was being forgotten, and yet by the end of this arc, everyone forgets about her anyway, and she seems to be okay with it? Give me a break!
Objection! While I do admit that this arc is the weakest, it does have a lot of great moments in it as well. For one, I like the dynamic between Tomoya and Fuko. They got on each other's nerves at points, and it made for some humorous moments. But there were also some very touching moments, such as near the end of the arc where Fuko leaves for good, and Tomoya and Nagisa cry about it. I also didn't mind Fuko as a character that much either. I thought she was cute as a button, her comedic moments mostly put a smile on my face, and I thought her story was kinda sad. If there's one thing that some of us hate, it's being forgotten when we're gone, and that rings true with this arc. Fuko doesn't want to be forgotten, so the fact that it happens over time is really sad.
Objection! Except it's not well executed here. Especially when she is forgotten about anyways.
Objection! That may be true, but we didn't know that until the arc was over. Be honest, until you saw the ending, did you think that Fuko was going to be forgotten by everyone? So yes, I will admit that this arc isn't the best, but it has a lot of good moments in it as well.
Hey, well, Dark Arthur, do you have anything left to say?
Much like this arc, I think it's safe we move on to something better. The next, as we'll call it story arc, is pretty much focused on the bookworm, Katomi. Before I rip into this, I will admit that this arc has much better payoff than the last arc since Katomi becomes a recurring character after this arc is complete, and we also get hints what the robot is. By the way, Wave, do we ever get the resolution for this thing in After Story?
Yes.
Okay. But while these hints are nice, the robot doesn't really do anything in this first season, so it makes me question the overall point of this thing. Anyways, the arc focuses around Katomi slowly making friends with Tomoya in the game, while we also find out her backstory and history with our blue-haired protagonist. All the while, a mysterious man has been following Katomi around, and we later find out why, but I don't really care about this. So, I'll turn this segment over to my blue-eyed opponent.
Thanks, I guess. So it turns out that this Men in Black wannabe is actually Katomi's legal guardian, and while Katomi thought he was trying to steal her parents' thesis on an alternate dimension, which she thought she burned, it turned out that he didn't want the thesis after all, and the paper she burnt wasn't anything relevant. Probably just a script for Spider-Man 3. Instead, he wanted to give her a suitcase belonging to her parents, which was actually a cute little teddy bear. Let me backpedal a bit. In this arc, we find out that growing up, Katomi was a prodigy. She was very smart, loved to play the violin, and was very well liked. But one day, her parents died in a plane crash, and as if the universe didn't hate Katomi enough, it happened on her birthday. That sucks. Needless to say, the death of her parents caused Katomi to pretty much shun herself from society, and she spent the rest of her days alone. I have to be honest though, I really like this backstory. It's sad, it tugs at my heartstrings, and as someone who's dealt with loss in the past, I can relate to this character a lot. After hearing about this backstory and her history with Tomoya as childhood friends, it made me care about this character a lot more than I did with Fuko. Speaking of which, I also found Katomi to be a very interesting character, and as I was watching this arc, she began to grow on me.
Objection! I have to disagree. I found Katomi to be a pretty bland character. She started off on a really rough foot, and while I could see that she was at least trying to make friends, I didn't really care that much about it. Also, did we really need to see Tomoya doing landscaping? It came off as more boring than anything else.
Hold it! I didn't mind the landscaping bit all that much since it showed that despite Tomoya's rebellious attitude, he still has a soft spot for some people and he was willing to show Katomi that he cared about her as a friend by doing all this for her. I also liked her development throughout this arc, going from a person who usually keeps to herself to a person making an effort to become friends with people and involve herself in more activities such as the violin. It felt like genuine progression for her, and I like that.
Objection! But was it really necessary to show pretty much the whole process? I don't think so. This comes off as padding, which creates another problem with this arc. This arc comes off as very rushed. The pieces were there to make a good arc, but the path from point A to point B was so riddled with bumps, reaching the destination just wasn't worth it. Keep in mind that this first season is 22 episodes, discounting the extra episodes.
Oh god, don't remind me of them.
Episodes 3 through 9 are either focused on Fuko, mention her at some points, or otherwise involve Fuko doing something. That's about 7 episodes, almost 1/3 of the first season. If that had been skimmed down, this arc would have had more time to set up events much better instead of it being thrown in our faces and then advancing to something else. For example, in episode 13, we find out her backstory. Instead of focusing on the bits like her depression, the rest of the episode is centered on Tomoya fixing up her yard. Yes, I know that Tomoya is the main focus here, but if you want to present a serious topic like loss and depression, you can't just sweep it under the rug for something stupid! One last complaint I would like to bring up is the payoff. I'm sorry, but it came off as confusing to me. You have all these pieces for an emotionally damaged girl, and the way that she gets over it is a teddy bear that she wished for when she was a kid and a note. First off, why would she remember something like that? And second of all, really? All this depression and isolation, and this is how it gets resolved. No, I don't buy it. And Wave, I don't understand why you're not attacking this resolution either, because you've admitted in the past that you had depression. What gives?
I'm not attacking this resolution because stuff like this can actually give someone closure. Remember, she hasn't seen her parents in years, so getting something like this can basically tell Kotomi to let their deaths go and to live her life to the fullest. Hell, I thought that the payoff was really touching, because Kotomi finally got closure for what happened to her, and she can move on with her life, which she does, and that's awesome. Needless to say, this is one of the reasons why I love the episode, The Theory of Everything. The payoff was that good.
Fair enough. Let's move on.
As the name implies, this arc is centered on Tomoyo as she is competing to be student body president. That's pretty much what happens.
Objection! And here is my first issue with this arc.
Right out of the starting gate, huh?
Well, I do admit that Tomoyo was a great character in the beginning, especially when she beat up Tsunehara for being an idiot. I don't like this plot of becoming student body president. It feels really generic for a high school anime, and it doesn't leave me that interested in it. Unfortunately, the story arc is centered around this election, so I can't ignore it. Another thing I can't ignore, aside from Tsunehara's perverted actions, is the stupidity of this school's faculty. Tomoyo can do an ultra combo to Tsunehara in the hallway, but when she beats up again, Tomoya, not Tomoyo, gets suspended for it. That's stupid!
Objection! There's a massive difference between those fights, Dark Author. In the first example, she wasn't running for student body president. With this gang example, she is running for that position. Tomoya took the blame for the fight so that Tomoyo could still be in the running.
Objection! While that may explain it, I do not like the scenes that take place afterwards where Tomoyo acts like a maid to Tomoya, cooking his meals, getting him out of bed, etc. That doesn't sound like the same girl that beat up a biker gang in the first episode to me. Wanna know something else? That doesn't sound like Tomoyo to me. All the shipping jokes / mentions, this series has a ton of that lying around and I don't really care for it. Yes, this anime is centered on a main character in a pretty much all-female cast, but that doesn't mean that you have to have every female character in the group shipped with him, which is pretty much exactly what happens. And need I bring up the scene where Kyo and Tomoya get locked in a gym closet? There are cringe-worthy moments, and then there's this. It's not funny, it's just painful and stupid, not helped by the fan service for the females. Why? One more thing. I don't like the ending of this arc. While the backstory is fine, Tomoyo becoming student body president through what is essentially a sports montage kinda seems like an anticlimax to me.
Hold it! I honestly didn't mind the sports montage bit because it showed how determined Tomoyo was to become student body president. I also liked Tomoyo as a character. She was not only a badass, but she also felt more human than the rest of the characters, admitting her faults as an older sibling. And her determination made me very interested in this character. Speaking of siblings, I also found her backstory to be very touching, and as someone who has dealt with their parents separating in the past, I could relate to what Tomoya and her brother were going through, which is a plus because it makes me more attached to this character and makes me want to see how she'll get through this. I also liked the relationship between Tomoyo and Tomoya. It felt really genuine, and there were a few moments that made me think, I could see these two in a relationship. And then I saw another World Tomoyo chapter, and that thought went out the window. But speaking of relationships, I actually liked most of the shipping moments. I found them to be both humorous and sweet, especially when those shipping moments involved Tomoya and Nagisa. But yeah, I honestly enjoyed the Tomoyo arc.
Let's just move on to the final arc.
Something wrong?
No, but if you thought I was holding back my complaints for this anime, the final arc will release those complaints like residue from a powerful explosion.
This final arc of the first season begins with some wacky scenes of Tomoya trying to avoid bringing a teacher over to his house to discuss his future with Tomoyo's father, and then Nagisa shows up and basically goes, "Clannad, bitch!" and drags Tomoya back to the office after he tries to run away from the school.
Give me a break, Nagisa. Don't you trust me?
Nope.
Turn down for what?
Okay, I've been waiting to talk about this, but I think now is the perfect time to talk about this. Redundancy. I'm sure you might have noticed this in the previous arcs, but Tomoya has changed a lot throughout the season, and a large reason for that, at least I believe, is because of his interactions with Nagisa. After this interaction, he begins to make more friends in the school, begins to smile more often, is willing to sacrifice his well-being for his friends. He's become a better person ultimately. I also think Nagisa has changed because of Tomoya. He seems to have helped Nagisa build confidence in herself, and considering that she dragged Tomoya back to the office, she seemed to have a lot more courage and social skills than in the first episode. I really like these kind of relationships where both people in the relationship change as a result of the other person, because it feels like they care about the other so much that they are willing to change for the better because of this person in their life. And that confession near the end was so satisfying since they had built it up throughout the season, and it made me very interested to see where this relationship would go next. Oh my god!
Yeah, bitch!
Oh my god. That was okay. That was worth it. That was worth it. I am hyped.
I still need to see the anime.
I am hyped for the second season.
Objection! And here's my biggest problem with this arc. The romance. This anime is a lot of things. A high school anime, drama, a feels coaster, whatever. I could tolerate most of these things if it's handled well, but I don't like the romance aspect of this anime because I feel it takes away a lot of the good moments of the show by shoving it in there. The Fukos Ark had a lot of this, the Kotomi Ark had bits of it, the Tomoya Ark was filled with this so much it could fill a reservoir. And I just think it's unnecessary. To me, it's like putting a puzzle piece into a piece of the puzzle that clearly doesn't fit and using glue to wedge it together. It's a mess. Listen, I know some people are going to hate on me for not liking this element, so let me explain why I don't like it. I've never experienced this feeling of love that a lot of couples do, nor do I understand or wish to understand it. A lot of these shows portray romance as the ultimate happiness, and loners / people not in a relationship as losers, and I'm sorry, but I think that's a load of baloney. If you need someone to make you happy, then what will happen if that person cheats on you or leaves you? You'll be all alone and depressed. I'm just saying that there are some people who are happy without a relationship, and shouldn't be judged as losers because they don't have someone in their life in a romantic sense. Sorry, but I wanted to get that off my chest. You understand what I'm saying, right, Wave?
Absolutely. I can see where you're coming from with this, and it does make a lot of sense. I might like this romance element, but I can understand where you're coming from with this.
Thanks. One other thing I want to cover in this subject of Tomoya's father. I've seen a lot of people hate on this character for being cruel to Tomoya, how despicable of a man this guy is, and I have to step back and disagree with this. I have seen every episode of the first season, and I can argue that Tomoya's father is more of the victim in this than Tomoya. He lost his wife, his son hates him for a bunch of things that he did, such as drinking, and in one case, where he tries to help his son, Tomoya gets angry and runs off. Yes, he did damage to Tomoya's arm, but that could have been an accident for all we know. I'm sorry, but I'm on Naoyuki's side for this one. Tomoya is the real monster in this case. All his father is doing is trying to drink his sorrows away because when you have PTSD for something like losing your wife, you need something to fill that void. I can see why a lot of people don't like this guy, especially those who don't see eye to eye with their fathers, but I think Tomoya's anger towards his father for the most part is unjustified. But speaking of parents, I did not like Akio in this arc. He can act like a big jerk at points, and when it comes to Nagisa's past, he decides to hide it from her because he worries that Nagisa will blame herself for them having to abandon their careers to be there for Nagisa. I'm sorry, but I am a follower of honesty is the best policy. If she does blame herself, you have to be there for her as parents to let her know that it wasn't ultimately her fault. But no, we get a big pep talk during her performance, and that's what solves it? Give me a break!
Hold it! I honestly liked the moments with Tomoya interacting with Nagisa's parents because it was pretty funny, and since Tomoya moved in with them for a short while, their development was very interesting, and their moments together were also very well done, especially the baseball game bit in episode 20.
I think you broke Susan's eardrums when you got that bit.
Anyways, I also liked Nagisa's backstory. It was very sad and it tugged at my heartstrings. It also almost made me cry.
Which you ended up doing in Afterstory.
But speaking of her backstory, I also liked the bit with Nagisa feeling self-doubt because it was once again a relatable feeling for me and made me sympathize with her.
Objection! The problem with this is that it not only drags on for way too long, but Nagisa was acting really out of character after this revelation. She never felt this way before. She was a kind individual who slowly made friends with a lot of people and was made happier by them. So this moment of self-doubt doesn't make any sense since she still has her friends and family to help pull her out of this moment. And that doesn't happen until halfway through the episode. Speaking of which, get to the theater bit because I have a lot to say about this second half.
Very well. After some touching scenes with Tomoya and Nagisa, we finally get to the climax of this drama club plot point with the drama club and choir club working together on a play for a school festival. I think this was worth it because after all the shit they went through to get this club back together, it's nice to see this effort paying off.
Not quite. Nagisa chokes up and is about to cry until Sanae, Tomoya, and Akio give a pep talk to Nagisa to snap her out of it, and she successfully performs the play. Honestly, I was questioning why no one was complaining about this pep talk while the play was going on.
Maybe they were paid to sit there and shut up.
Well, whatever it is, this arc is the worst arc of the season. There were so many moments that angered me, and so many moments that made me want to duck my head in a trash can, and I think you know what it is, Wave.
Oh yes, the confession bit. But while my opponent thinks this is the worst arc of the season, I think it's one of the best since it wraps up a lot of things very well, and the confession at the end made me want to watch the second season the first chance I got. Sure, there were 2 extra episodes, but I hate them with the passion, so I think it's safe to wrap it up. Overall, I love the first season of Clannad. It has a pretty good story, great drama, great characters, and I like the romance elements, which is usually something I don't care for in an anime.
I, on the other hand, didn't like this season. There were so many stupid moments in it, I didn't care for the romance bits, I didn't like most of the characters, and this is one of the only animes that made me nearly rage quit multiple times.
So that concludes this review. But what did you guys think of this anime? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Let us know in the comments below. Take care, everyone! In the meantime, hey Dark Author, I got Clannad After Story!
Never